So I did actually read 6 books this month, but I only have one physical copy on me, so I feel like I don't have like a little stack to show you. But hi guys, welcome back to Shanin's Shelf. I am Shanin. This is my shelf, I guess. So I mean, I guess in many ways I have two shelves, and there's actually a third one out of frame that doesn't really have any books on it currently. So it's false advertising, but I think you get the idea. So this is Shannon's Shenanigans. Actually started this year, although I of course was doing it on my other channel, and now I'm bringing it to this channel that I've just started. And this is essentially just my monthly update. And I'll mention the books I've read and any other thing that I may have done. I mean, I even mentioned movies I've watched that I think are worth mentioning, which I don't have any for this month. I guess I watched The New Quiet Place and I thought it was okay. So there's that. Let me know if you saw it, I suppose, and if you liked it. Cats named Frodo are acceptable, certainly. And yeah, I usually go over the books last, and I don't usually dive into too much detail. And I'm gonna try to actually maybe do videos on some of these books and whatnot. So we'll see. But I haven't made a video on any of these books so far, to say the least. But my classes started, which I haven't. I'm taking an online degree, studying philosophy, and the classes started just over a week ago. It's been about 2 years since I've taken classes because of my situation. Essentially, I haven't been able to. So I'm happy to be back, but I feel like I'm a little rusty. We'll see how the semester goes. So far, we're not very far in at all, but it's going okay, I would say. And I actually, one of the books I read today, and I did have a physical copy of this. I was borrowing it from my library, though. I much prefer physical copies. I will read ebooks and listen to audiobooks, and that's fine. I'd like to have a physical copy if I can get my hands on one. My current financial situation is not very pretty, so that I don't get a lot of physical copies. I certainly don't get as many as I would like. And I tend to prioritize my more philosophical books in physical copies because I feel like I need to be able to mark those up and annotate them while I don't need to when I'm just reading fantasy and stuff like that, if that makes sense. But I read Medieval Philosophy by Anthony Kinney. It was kind of just an overview, kind of to remind me, because I did take the medieval philosophy already offered through my degree, but that was 2 years ago, so I just wanted a refresher. I'm taking a course on Aquinas this semester, and yeah, that should be good. So I read the medieval philosophy just to catch back up. So I guess I'm mentioning that book real quick, and I'll mention the other five in a moment. But I'm starting my degree back up, and we'll see how that fares and where it takes me. Probably to unemployment because it's a humanities degree. But regardless, what else am I doing? Oh, the symposium. So I host a symposium, like an online symposium among a pretty small group of friends every month. I co-host it with my brother. I mean, it was my idea. It's my brainchild. But I mean, I co-host it with my brother. He's gracious enough to join, and he's actually presented twice when we had someone fall through. So like he covered and stuff like that. Um, and my friend Sean uh, presented. We do it like the fourth Tuesday of every month. So he presented pretty recently, and it was great. He did like a dig school in around, I think it was in St. Andrews, yeah, Llandoris Abbey in St. Andrews, Fife, County Fife, Scotland this summer. And so that was cool. Got to hear about that more, hear more about monastic history and the actual dig school he did, which seemed really cool. That would be something I would really enjoy doing, even though I'm not sure I don't want to be an archaeologist. It's something I wouldn't be against though. It's just I prefer some other things over that, really. But it was really cool. Should be hearing from another friend next month, and then another friend after that, and then stuff like that. So we'll see. I'm actually trying to make that an official business and do more with that. I have ran a nonprofit before, so we'll see. I'm not really in a position to get that incorporated currently, but I will work on that. I'm not sure anyone on BookTube actually cares to hear about that stuff. Let me know if you do, I suppose. And we'll see. But regardless, it's been fun. I enjoy it. Sean is my friend who presented, and I've currently started. I read like the foreword essentially for this book. I will be reading it this month, The Makers of Scotland. So I guess that's a TBR thing. And normally I wouldn't say, I'm not going to call this TBR, because normally I say, oh, I'm going to try to read this book and then I don't read it. But I will be reading this only about 2 chapters a week with Sean and discussing it with him. And I might actually do like a buddy read video with him once we're completely done and put it on the channel. We'll see. But he's a nice guy. We don't live close to each other at all. So, this is a nice thing to do with a friend. And then as far as writing goes, so I always try to mention the writing I've done for the past month. And I mentioned in my last month's video that the Thursday before July ended, so last Thursday of July, I was going to say I'm going to make Thursday a writing day so I actually get more writing done, because I usually don't get any writing done. And it's actually kind of worked. And I've actually been reading writing. I don't write as much as I would like on Thursdays, but kind of to make up for it, and I've been enjoying it. I've been writing on more than just Thursdays. I'm really slow. I think hopefully if I get more and more in the habit of writing, I'll actually be able to write faster. I just finished a story. It's only the second story I finished this year, and the first one was like, what, maybe 3,000 words, and this one was 8,000 words. The idea actually is at some point in the world that these stories take place in, that my brother Liam and I will publish a collection of short stories in the world, and I kind of figured I might write half of it, he might write half of it, or give or take a little bit. And it's very much in the early stages. I have about maybe 11,000 words currently, and I don't think he's written any for this world. It was kind of my idea, so I don't know if he's as invested as I am, or as interested. So go over to his channel and harass him and make him do it. Yeah, so. But it's been good. I've been enjoying writing these stories. If anything, I'm worried they might be actually kind of boring, that no one else actually is going to care. But oh well. But on to what I've been reading. Besides that Anthony Kinney medieval philosophy book I mentioned, I also read 2 mystery books, and I don't normally read mystery. And I read physical copies of them. I borrowed them from the library. And my wife's read like 6 or 7 books in this series. I read the first 2, and I'm probably not going to read any more. But they were okay, actually. It was by Oscar de Muriel. The first book was The Strings of Murder, and the second one was A Fever of the Blood. And there was definitely an improvement from the first book to the second book. The first book was very predictable. Not bad, but very predictable. I've never read Sherlock Holmes, so I don't know how it stacks up against the granddaddy of all mysteries or whatever. But it was entertaining enough, and The Fever of the Blood, the second one, was definitely more entertaining. They always have kind of this supernatural element, but obviously there's always a natural explanation for things. Second one kind of deals with witches. It takes place pretty much around Liverpool, if I remember correctly. I might already be forgetting. It's been like a month since I've read them. I read them at the very beginning of the month. And then the first one takes place in Edinburgh, but not terrible. I'm going to try to maybe do a video on those books, like the first 2 books in that series, with my wife on my channel, because I like doing videos with my wife, and hopefully she likes them too, and so I can convince her to start her own channel, and she could talk about the whole 6 books or whatever because she's read a lot more of them than I have. But either way, so that gets us up to 3. I read 2 other books that I don't have physical copies of. I actually listened to them on audio, and that was The Children of Húrin and Beren and Luthien. So I'm like in a weird state of, I really like J.R.R. Tolkien's work, and I probably would have always said that I really like J.R.R. Tolkien's work, but I had not really read any of it, so I was a poser. Because I didn't read Lord of the Rings till earlier this year, and I absolutely loved it. I pretty much knew what it was gonna. I've seen the movies a bajillion times, and I knew the differences between the films and the books because my brother's read the books several times, and he's explained all the differences to me. But I was like, you know what, I should actually read these myself, and I have. And I want to reread them already, if I'm being honest. But we'll see. I have a lot of other things I'm trying to read, which is never going to change. But I read The Children of Húrin and I read Beren and Luthien because they were pretty quick. I'm actually just started the Fall of Numenor today, so hopefully I'll finish that in September. But it was great. I loved it. And I love both of them. They're a little bit, especially for Beren and Luthien, a little disjointed because I know it was kind of taking snippets from stuff he had written and they're kind of compiling it together like Christopher Tolkien is, essentially. But very good stories, and in fact, Children of Húrin are probably my preference between the 2. I'm kind of a sucker for a Greek tragedy. I mean, not really. I enjoy them, but I don't really go out of my way to read tragedies. At least I haven't for a few years. But it was the thing with like the Greek tragedies in many ways, not always, but in some of them, I feel like, oh, this could actually be a true story. And I never think of it that way. And I know The Children of Hurin is not a true story, and yet it touched my heart way more than any Greek tragedy has, essentially. And I thought it was beautiful. Definitely a tragedy, definitely tragic, but I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. Um, I think Tolkien is phenomenal. He is very quickly becoming one of my favorite authors. I tend to be kind of snooty. I try not to be too snooty and try to not feel too like trying to be highbrow or whatever. I feel like it happens against my best wishes sometimes, regardless. But I really like Tolkien. I do really like Tolkien, and maybe he's the snooty type for the fantasy genre. I don't know, but oh well. I'm trying to read other fantasy too. In fact, I am presently done because I'm recording this a few days into September, and I finished this morning The Wavy Dan by Philip Chase, and I finished another book. But I'm going to talk a bit more about those. I might do videos, probably not on Wavy Dan unless I finish the trilogy. I'll talk about those for my other monthly update, which I should have recorded this before I finished those, because I finished one yesterday and I finished one today, and I'm recording this on the 3rd of September. Oops. But the last book that I finished was The Blazing World by Margaret Cavendish. So this is, some people consider this an early like work of sci-fi fantasy. It's kind of otherworldly. The Blazing World. Uh, it was okay. I wanted to read it because it's really short, actually, and because I know it's kind of historically accurate, and it was by a female author. I don't usually read things just because they're written by women, at least not present authors, but when they're historical, I like them. I was like, why not? We'll see how it goes. And just because it's historical, even if it's not wasn't written by a woman, I just think perhaps that's just an extra layer to it from the time period, because this is pretty old. I don't remember when it was written though. She was born in 1623, so 17th century, and I don't know when this was written, but obviously sometime in her lifetime. So there's that. And it wasn't bad. If anything, I kind of felt like she was trying to show us how smart she is. And she wrote like a scientific treatise that kind of accompanies this. So she definitely was smart. I think I would say smarter than me. So maybe I shouldn't be upset if she's trying to show how smart she is. But at the same time, I kind of just got that vibe as I was reading it, and it wasn't super entertaining, but it wasn't terrible. It's quick enough read. So I guess if you're interested, go ahead. I didn't give you too much to go off there, but you'll figure it out. I believe in you. But either way, let me know your thoughts about my crappy writing and my terrible reading skills. I've read 6 books in a month. It's why I only do monthly updates. I don't bother doing weekly updates. I don't read that much. As far as like booktubers go, I know I read a lot less than a lot of them out there. These people are crazy. But I'm trying to read more. Last year, I read maybe 3 books in total. It was a terrible, terrible year. I kind of rededicated myself uh, in January this year at the new year to reading more. My goal was to read 35 books in the year. I'm actually not quite sure what my count is right now, but I think I've passed it already. I'd have to go back and double check. But if I haven't passed it, I'm certainly going to be passing it because the 6 books a month is kind of typical. So we'll see. I've already finished 2 books for September. Spoilers, I already did that. And hopefully I'll finish several more, of course. Classes have started, so I don't know how. Maybe it'll slow down a bit. Maybe, I don't know. But either way, we'll see. And thank you for watching. Again, feel free to comment, but also please feel free to like and subscribe. And I will see you guys next time. I'll see you soon.